Playoff brackets were unveiled this week by the MHSAA. I'll be breaking down the brackets, give you some instant reactions, and I've got Vegas odds on teams most likely to win regionals and beyond in the tournament. Going to be a fun one this week. Going to be a little different, I think. So hit subscribe on YouTube and let's talk some hockey. Before we get into playoff brackets, I did want to tease a few content pieces for the website to kind of keep an eye out for in the coming days, coming weeks. The blog has been a little bit slow lately. If you've been checking out the website, I've been slow to update and add a couple blogs to it. But I apologize, but just been putting a lot of attention into the pod and graphics and making sure the presentation here is good, as you'll see in a little bit here. So that's kind of taken a lot of focus and attention in recent weeks. So some blogs to be on the lookout for soon, though. We're nearing the end of the regular season, obviously this weekend being the last regular season games, which means it's awards season. For those of you that have been following me for a little bit now, you may recall this piece from last year. I'm going to give out hypothetical NHL awards to some of the most outstanding Michigan high school hockey players from this season. We'll give out the Norris Trophy to the top defenseman, the Hart Trophy to the state MVP, Rocket Richard to the top goal scorer, Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, much more. So that'll be coming your way soon. Keep an eye out for that. Also, I'll unveil my all-freshman team, my all-sophomore team, my all-junior East and West, my all-senior East and West teams as well. My all-freshman team, by the way, is stacked. Owen Perry, Bryce Patilla, Easton Ball is another one. I think I've said too much, though. I might need to pump the brakes there a little bit. But I'll offer up 14 forwards, 7 defensemen, and 2 goalies, a full 23-man roster, class by class, of some of the top performers from across the state this season. And for the juniors and seniors, I'll do a little bit of East versus West scenario, like if we had a hypothetical all-star game, like you see in the NHL too. So be on the lookout for all that content coming your way soon. Plus next week, with playoffs on the horizon, will be all bracketology next week. I'll make a case for as many as 72 different teams to win a regional championship. Be on the lookout for that. I'll put that on the website, I believe, on Monday next week. Right on the cusp of playoff hockey. I think games get underway on Tuesday at the earliest, so be on the lookout for that. Speaking of playoffs, that's the impetus of this entire episode here. Let's look at some brackets. So let me see if this is going to work. Perfect. There we go. All right, that was a sweet transition. I didn't think that was going to work as well as it did. So now I know you've all probably seen them by now, whether it's on MHSAA.com or some of the other media outlets out there. I put them up on the Michigan High School Hockey Hub this week as well. But I'm not quite sure you've seen it like what I'm about to show you. And I'll offer up my commentary and thoughts as we go through as well. Complete bracketology and picks will be on next week's pod. So be on but today, we can lay the foundation a little bit and offer up some instant reactions. We'll get into picks next week. That way, when you're on your way to the rink, you can have me dialed up on the radio there and listening in as you're heading to the rink there for some of these playoff games. Division One may be the toughest this division has been in recent years, especially when you consider the top 3 teams overall in the state right now are in D1. Plus, you got Clarkston. You got Lakes Area United getting hot at the right time. I'm still not counting out Brighton, Salem, another team picking up steam in the back half of the season. CC is still your odds-on favorite to win, but there's more interesting storylines throughout D1 than I remember in recent memory. Division 2, defending champs Byron Center has a great path to Plymouth. What about new faces like Caledonia or Matawan? Traverse City Central is battle-tested. I like them to contend on the regional circuit. Flint Powers, your odds-on favorite to win D2, but will certainly be tested against teams like Lakeland, Midland Dow, or Marquette, depending on who comes out of the opposing region there. Stevenson, I'm confident They reach Plymouth, but then what? What happens then? I labeled Brother Rice as the boogeyman of the division on last week's episode. I love where the Warriors are at right now. Might even get a chance to check them out later today, actually, with their game against Brighton here at 3:30 puck drop. So maybe able to sneak over there for a little bit of late regular season action. And D3, maybe the most wide open of the three divisions. Did I lose my spot? Oh, yeah. CC, the favorite in Division 1. Power's the favorite in Division 2. But who's the favorite in Division 3? Some may say it's number 6 Houghton. Others, it's number 5 Orchard Lake. What about number 7 East Grand Rapids? That's my personal favorite here. And you cannot forget about defending champs and top 10 team Cranbrook. So you still got De La Salle, you got Jeffers, Sault Ste. Marie, Alpena. Why couldn't an unsuspecting team like the Bay Reps come out of the quarterfinals again? So let's get into it. I'll take you through each region of each division, 24 regions, 12 quarters of brackets. What you see here is what is for certain. Beyond this, you get reseeding at the semifinal level in Plymouth. So matchups based off of MPR would yet to be determined. So we'll get into it a little bit here with the brackets. Here we go. Division 1, we'll start with the West quarter, so to speak. 2 regions of West Michigan-based teams here. Sparta, your number 1 seed in Region 1, but this won't be an easy path. I'm actually leaning Traverse City West in that quarterfinal of the region game here against Forest Hills Northeastern. I think the Titans could give Sparta a hell of a game. Callan Ray, stud. You've heard me talk about him a bunch. But how about Drew Charland? He's turned it on this season as well. Charland could be a playoff difference maker. So I'm pretty high on the potential of TC West as one of only a few teams that could claim a 3-win regional championship in the coming weeks. So I'm not counting them out there in a 4-5 matchup. So for Sparta to open up with a tough matchup in the semis here, you get another tough matchup in the championship with whoever comes out of that Mona Shores and Rockford game. Not an easy path for a Spartans team that's ranked in the upper 25 to 30% of the state all season, basically. Region 2, the other side of the bracket here. First example of why I just do not like MPR. KU beat Kalamazoo head-to-head twice this season. Beat Jenison as well, yet ends up behind them in MPR here. KU draws that tough 4-5 matchup, and if they survive, rewarded with a tough semifinal matchup with top-seeded Forest Hills Central. Don't get me wrong, there's no easy path to a championship. I get that. And KU has some less than pretty losses on their resume. But to be ranked behind not 1 but 2 teams that you've proved to beat earlier in the season, that just sucks. So tough break, I think, here for Kalamazoo United, a team that's had a real nice season so far. Maybe they can keep it going for another game or 2 here. Okay, let's talk Vegas odds. I had a little fun with this. Quick explanation for those of you at home. The lower the number, the higher the likelihood of it happening, according to my Vegas insiders. But I got top-seeded Sparta at plus 150 to win regionals. That's a 40% chance of coming away with a wooden mitten. Behind that, plus 300 to make it to Plymouth outside of that. So as we continue to look further down the tournament, I got them tied with Mona Shores, who's also in Region 1 with a 25% chance to reach the Frozen Four. The Region 1 winner I have is more than half as likely to advance to Plymouth as well. So whether it's Sparta, whether it's Mona, hey, whether it's my Traverse City West Titans there, more than a 50% chance of the winner of Region 1 advancing to the Frozen Four there. In Region 2, Forest Hill Central with a slight edge over Jenison to win regionals. And then the best odds of any team in the region to advance to the Frozen Four as well. I might have screwed that up. Anyways, we'll keep moving along here. Let's see. We'll get into the next quarterfinal here. Uh, two two of the heaviest hitters in Division One, with Howell on one side, and then you got Clarkston on the other side. Obviously, of all the teams in Region Three here, Cap City matches up with Howell head to head the best of the bunch. That's not to say the Caps are a lock to reach the regional final. East Side has been a thorn in the Caps side come playoff time for much of the last decade. These two going toe to toe quite a bit there in the Lansing area. But the Caps have won this matchup 4-0 and 3-0 this season already. So the Stars would have to do something that they haven't done all season on Cap City if they have hopes of advancing. And that's quite simply score. So tough 2-3 matchup here. And like I said, I think Caps stack up better, a little bit better against the heavily favored Howell Highlanders in a potential regional final matchup there. The Caps, just kind of elaborate on that. They have the depth, they have the structure, they have the discipline to give Howell a bit of a game. But the Highlanders are just as deep with exceptional talent. And if we get that matchup in the regional final, maybe the best goalie versus goalie matchup we've seen all season with Henry Lansky and Sean Story in opposing goals there. Lansky's caught a ton of headlines this season. I think Story is the real deal as well. Caps could make it a scary, like 2-1 type of dogfight in that regional final there. On the other half, I just have Clarkston cruising here. They're operating on a different level. I'll move into my Vegas odds for both of these regions. Clarkston, I got them at -900, is one of my most likely teams to win a regional across all divisions. 12 games this season against top 25 opponents. No one else in this region has seen that level of competition. Wolves should roll into the region or into the quarterfinals for what will be a real tough matchup with likely Howell for a chance to advance to the Frozen Four. We'll keep moving along here into quarterfinal 3. The game that everyone's had circled on their calendars since playoff assignments were handed out back in, I think, August. Is that right? But nonetheless, Catholic Central, your number 1 seed, Heartland, your number 2 seed in Region 6. Your number 1 team in the state taking on your number 2 team in the state in the 3rd round of the state playoffs, because, that makes sense. This isn't anything new, unfortunately. I always go back to my time with Livonia Stevenson. We were the number 1 team in Division 2. We played the number 2 team at Plymouth in Division 2. In the 1st round of the state tournament. So there's ways to fix it. It can be done. I know there's some changes in the works still, but as long as we have geographically based regions like this, it'll be near impossible to fix it. You got to give teams the option to travel for playoffs. There's a lot of really great teams in a very condensed area. So if it's going to be geographically based, they're going to continue to beat up on each other at these lower levels of the tournament. It just whatever. That's a topic for another show. We can spend more time on that on a later podcast. But if Heartland's not careful, though, Lakes area could keep a game close with them in the semis. Lakes area, they're 23-0 on the season. Wins over ranked opponents like Jeffers and Sault Ste. Marie. Additional feathers in the cap like Hancock and Lakeland. It'd take an amazing performance from a guy like Jacob Van Sweden in net, but I won't totally rule it out because there's potential, there's possibility there. Looking at the other side here, Region 5, with all these East Side teams, this thing is wide open. I have Romeo as the favorite to win, but they're the 3 seed. There's no easy pick in this entire region. LCU and Anchor Bay tied 3-3 in the regular season. So flip a coin on that 4-5 matchup here. Lance Cruce United played Ike to not 1 but 2 1-goal games, splitting the season series at 1 game apiece. So if you get that rematch in the semifinal, who knows what happens there? With the exception of Utica Unified, who's already proven they can beat teams in this region too. All of these teams are ranked in the same 20-team window on my hockey rankings, between number 38 Chip Valley and number 57 Anchor Bay. As I mentioned, Utica Unified kind of being the outlier there, but still showing the ability to compete with this group of teams. So I just think it's going to be a tough region to predict. We get into Vegas odds to win. Romeo with the best odds to win the region, a 22% chance to win the Wooden Mitten here. Ike close behind at plus 400. Chip Valley at plus 450. I won't do this for all regions, but since this one is so wide open, on top of that, I got Utica Unified at plus 525, LCU at plus 660, and Anchor Bay at plus 800. So really could be any one of the five, six teams in that region. So Catholic Central, your odds-on favorite to win the regional, as well as best odds to advance to Plymouth for what would be the 13th consecutive season. I think that's right. I don't know. Whew, wow. Fine. Well, let me get into the final quarter of Division One here. A lot of KLAA teams in the graphic. Feels like an impending rematch here between Brighton and Northville, your top two seeds in Region 7. The Bulldogs beat Northville 5-1 in their only KLAA meeting earlier this season, but that was before the Mustangs had added Isaac Nelson to their back end. That pickup could prove to be a difference maker in this series. Teams who generate a lot of offense and opportunities from the blue line, I think it can be a little tough sledding in the playoffs, especially. But McCallum and Nelson are two of the best. So I'm going to give the Mustangs a good shot here, should they advance and face a team like Brighton in the regional final. Novi played inspired hockey against the Mustangs too in their first loss to Northville. I could see that happening again in a potential semifinal matchup here. But the Wildcats aren't trending in a good direction as of late, giving up 4.79 goals against per game since the new year. Both Brighton and Northville have proved to score on Novi already, both scoring 5 goals in previous meetings. That puts the pressure on the Wildcats quite a bit. Formula for success in this region may require a lot of offense. So on the other side here, Region 8, I think could be a bit wide open. Plymouth, the number 1 seed, and has already beaten its 2 biggest threats in this bracket this season with wins over number 2 seed Salem and number 4 Canton here. These park school rivalries are dangerous. On paper, I'd say Salem is the best of those 3. Yet they went 0-2 in the rivalry series this season. So Rocks are on a bit of a roll as of late, having won 6 of their last 8. Dom Chappett, 27 of his team high 51 points have come in the last month of the season. And Nolan Kaminsky, not far behind, has 26 points in that same span. So the right guys are getting right at the right time. Salem starting to really put things together here. A rematch with Plymouth in the regional final may net very different results than what we saw in that 6-4 game that went Plymouth's way back in December. So, but Salem is not going to have an easy time getting there either. M1 United, that's a tough and talented bunch that they're going to have to get through first in a potential semifinal matchup there. Put the Rocks on upset alert in that game. You don't get caught looking ahead here. That could be a dangerous spot for Salem. Vegas odds. Plymouth's got to be your odds-on favorite to win the region, considering head-to-head results, having beaten Canton and Salem, like I mentioned before. But Salem isn't too far behind at plus 200. Brighton, the front runner to win Region 7, as well as the favorite to advance to the Frozen Four, which to some may be an absolute stunner there, considering the team's youth, the losses they suffered via graduation last season. If this Bulldog squad gets back to Plymouth for a 5th straight year, wow, that'd be real impressive. So, okay, let's keep it moving here. We'll get into Division 2 for the first time. We'll start on the west side with a pair of regions. I may be getting a little bit ahead of myself, but we could be living in a world where all three Traverse City based hockey programs come away with a regional championship this season. I mentioned TC West in Division One. TC Central here has a real shot in Division Two. And not to get too far ahead of myself, but the Bay Reps in Division Three, we'll have more on that in a little bit. So the Trojans have played 11 one-goal games this season. That's more than anyone else in the state by a lot, twice as much as the next team. Of those 11, they've been on the losing end of 9 of those. We all know how fluky this game can be, right? A bounce here, you hit a post there, a penalty call that makes a difference, and the game could be completely different, right? Imagine if half of those losses went Central's way, and this team is sitting at 16, 7, and 0, as opposed to 11 and 12 right now. We'd all be talking about the Trojans as a top 25 team. Kanawha Hills in the semis is a tough spot. Good goaltender in Jared Lang. You'll have to find a way to kind of solve him in net. Plus, a Reese Puffer team that went to the Frozen Four last year, certainly looking to do it again with 12 returners from last season's team itching to make a return trip this time now as the number 1 seed in the region. So on the other side here, MPR, man. MPR. I've got Byron Center, Granville, and Caledonia all ranked ahead of Matawan, yet the Wildcats are the number 1 seed. Could I be wrong? Maybe. Maybe this is a bit of a public challenge to the Matawan boys, too. I know they've got talent there, right? Braden Lewis and Carson Maturin have been high on my watch list for a while now. A couple more goal scorers in the mix on top of that. Carson Smith, Royce Teal, Dom Vizot. But teams like BC and Granville and Caledonia, I think, are just built a little bit differently. Could Matawan beat Granville? Sure. But to beat Granville and Byron Center or beat Granville and Caledonia, that's a tougher ask. I've actually got Byron Center as the favorite to win the region here, followed by Granville, followed by Caledonia. Now it's close. Don't get me wrong. We can talk about Vegas odds here. Byron Center at plus 230, Granville at plus 300, Caledonia at plus 400. Beyond that, Matawan I got at plus 550, which is a 15% chance, and then Portage at plus 900. This is a region where I could see a path for all 5 teams to win it. On top of that, I do think the winner of Region 10 is most likely to advance to the Frozen Four as well here. So let's move on to the other half of the bracket. We'll go north, way north. Marquette travels 348 miles one way to compete in Region 11 here. They're the only UP team in Division 2, so that's really the only option. But if the MHSAA is saying that's okay, why do we put geographic restrictions on teams like Catholic Central and Heartland or other examples you want to insert team here around the state? Why not send a Heartland to Grand Rapids or CC to the east side or Byron Center to Traverse City or whatever to make matchups that make sense? This is hockey. This is sports, really. We're not shy to travel, clearly. So Bay City is the number 1 team here. As much as I like my Wolves, they lost to the number 2 seed Midland Dow earlier in the season. I don't necessarily like their chances against a team like Marquette either. Hell, even Midland has played them to 2 one-goal games this season. It feels like the winner of that Dow and Marquette game is your eventual regional champ. Now, on the other side of things, Powers, I mentioned them as my favorite to win Division 2. Clearly the favorite to win the region, albeit I think Lakeland is riding high right now. They just had a 14-game win streak snapped on Monday at the hands of Plymouth. The Eagles could make things interesting in a potential regional final matchup there. When you look at some Vegas odds, Flint Powers at minus 250 to win the region. One of the biggest favorites across all divisions when looking at the regional landscape. Best odds to advance to Plymouth as well at plus 150. Then Marquette plus 350 and Midland Dow at plus 560. A lot on the line when Marquette and Dow square off next Saturday. I like the way the Sentinels stack up against a Flint Powers team a bit more than if, say, Dow were to advance out of the Region 11. But we'll table that conversation, I think, for next week when we start getting into picks a little bit more. Okay, so we look at one of two Metro Detroit quarters here. This is all Stevenson to me. Dexter could give them a bit of a game, I think, in that regional final. Stevenson is susceptible to giving up goals, and the Dreads are capable of scoring once or twice, even on a top-level Stevenson team like this. Cade Stock, I think, would have to make north of 45 saves in that game to give Dexter a real chance. But on the other side, how about RU, man? The little engine that could, to an extent. Coming into this season, maybe a bit of a rebuilding, developmental season for the group. Just win 17 games, and now they're the number one seed in the region. Who saw that coming? Huge campaign for Rochester United, and they might not be done yet. You know, they've already beaten Stony Creek this season, and the Cougars and Lakers could beat each other up in the other half of the bracket here. So really, RU could just lie in wait and come pick off whoever comes out of that 2-3 matchup. I've got them as the favorite to win the region, rightfully so, which is not something I thought I was going to say back in November. I'm giving them a 36% chance to claim a championship. St. Clair Shores Unified followed close behind, and then Stony Creek. And regardless of who comes out of Region 13, they're going to have a real tall task ahead of them with a quarterfinal matchup against a heavy favorite in Livonia Stevenson. The best odds to advance to the Frozen Four of any team in any division. I have them here at minus 490. We'll move on to the last quarterfinal in Division 2. We get to a lot of MIHL teams. On one side, you got Brother Rice, the front runner in Region 15, but U of D and Grosse Pointe South could put a scare into familiar foes, people they've seen earlier on this season. U of D has beaten both Trenton and Brother Rice. I almost thought that was a typo when I was looking at the schedules. They've only got 5 wins on the season, and 2 of them are against top 25 teams that are in this graphic. So Rice and Trenton are heavy favorites, but don't take that for granted because the road may not be as easy as what I'm laying out here. Trenton at minus 1,500 to win the region. I'm giving them the best odds to win of any team in the state playoffs at 94%. After that, though, the Trojans' odds drop dramatically to just 33% to advance past the quarterfinals, with potentially Brother Rice standing in their way. Rice, my odds-on favorite to advance past the quarterfinal round at plus 100 here. Let's take a look at Division 3. We'll start in the UP. Region 17, all 4 teams could legitimately win. Jeffers has beaten all 3 of these teams in the region despite being the number 2 seed. Houghton, maybe the deepest team of the bunch. I loved Calumet and Hancock at the MIHL Showcase earlier this month. It's going to be a fun 3 games here. I think the seeding is accurate as well. Houghton, my favorite to win, followed closely by Jeffers, followed by Calumet and Hancock in that order that you see here. On the other side, Sault Ste. Marie is a pretty heavy favorite as well, but will run into a tough and talented Escanaba team. Nolan Bank, Graham Johnson, obviously, but Cale Carter is heating up too. He's got 9 points in his last 5 games. Owen Labonte is fantastic on the back end as well. A great 1-2 punch with Bank and Labonte there on the blue line. Escanaba may have an edge in talent, but the Sioux may be a little bit grittier and harder on pucks and along the walls, which obviously bodes well come playoff time. So the Sioux is my favorite at minus 120, more than a 50% chance at winning the region. but one of the scarier regional final matchups on the board, taking on a team against Escanaba. Could we get a quarterfinal rematch of last year with Houghton and Sault Ste. Marie squaring off for a second straight season with a trip to Plymouth on the line? A lot of familiar faces on that Blue Devil team that'll be looking to avenge last year's troubling 7-1 loss. I got to give the Gremlins the edge here in that potential matchup, but the Sioux still getting a 26% chance at advancing past the quarterfinal round here at plus 280. The northern quarter, we move downstate just a little bit. I'll circle back on my comments earlier about Traverse City teams. I've got the Bay Reps as a pretty heavy favorite in this region, despite being the 2 seed. They're ranked 12 spots ahead of Petoskey on my hockey rankings last I looked. Pretty significant strength of schedule advantage as well. Stud goalie in net, experience from a Frozen Four appearance a season ago. I know it's a young bunch, but given everything I just mentioned, like, why wouldn't they be the favorite here? So Petoskey's had a great season, though. 14 wins. Madden Pateman, Anderson Ward with some experience under their belts now could absolutely make things interesting in Region 19 for sure. So on the other side here, Region 20 is all Alpena to me. I got them at minus 450 to win the region. One of my biggest favorites in the state. Gladwin, 17 wins on the season, but they've played a completely different schedule than what Alpena's faced this season. Wildcats in the top 40 in strength of schedule and have played 5 top 25 opponents. Gladwin with a bottom 20 strength of schedule and hasn't played a team currently ranked any higher than 46th. And I believe that was a loss to a 5-1 loss at that. Looking at a potential Alpena Bay Reps quarterfinal, I give the Wildcats the edge here at minus 150, but why couldn't the Reps steal one more game and go back-to-back trips to Plymouth? Not completely out of the realm of possibility there after what's been a growing and developmental season for the Bay Reps, with still a good shot at getting back to the Frozen Four. Quarterfinal 11 here. You may remember Michigan football a couple of years back had that big revenge tour campaign, right? EGR has felt like they've been on a bit of a revenge tour this season, playing inspired hockey. Pretty heavy favorite to win the region here. They could draw a rematch of last year's 3 OT thriller with Big Rapids that nearly derailed the Pioneers' playoff hopes in 2024. I'm not sure the Cardinals get that shot, though, as Lakeshore could play spoiler in round 1. I like the way Grand Rapids Christian stacks up against EGR more so than Grand Rapids Catholic Central. The Eagles played East to a 0-0 tie back in December. Braden Mellon had to make 51 saves in that game to earn the 0-0 tie. A rematch here, someone would have to win, right? Pioneers are in playoff form after winning not 1, not 2, but 3 straight overtime games in the OKC conference tournament last week. I think the Pioneers are going to absolutely hit the ground running when it comes playoff time. That's a scary formula for everybody else in this graphic. Region 22, this group could put a scare into favorite and number 1 seed Orchard Lake, even Divine Child in a semifinal matchup here. The winner of Chelsea and Lumen, getting this regional group at home certainly favors the Eaglets. I feel like there's been spots in the playoffs in recent years where Orchard Lake had to go to Chelsea for regionals, and they just struggled a little bit in that building. Bad juju, maybe, bad vibes there at the Arctic Coliseum. So getting this regional at home certainly plays into Orchard Lake's favor. Luke Webster is playing great for Chelsea. That's always going to give the Bulldogs a chance, even if they're unable to generate much offense against a heavily favored Orchard Lake team. Lumen Christie has solid goaltending as well. The Titans are 5-2-2 heading into the playoffs and have faced some top-level competition in comparable teams like Byron Center and Sault Ste. Marie. And that's not one-to-one comparisons necessarily, but I don't think Lumen is going to be in awe of Orchard Lake's speed or skill the way some others might be. So, because the Titans have seen it before from similar type squads. Let's take a look at Vegas odds real quick for this quarterfinal. EGR, a heavy favorite in Region 21 at minus 130. And the favorite to make it to the Frozen Four out of this group, Orchard Lake close behind with a 32% chance of advancing past the quarterfinals. Okay, let's see here. Last quarterfinal. We're moving along pretty good here. Last quarterfinal of our playoff preview. Defending champ Cranbrook. The path to a D3 championship very much runs through the Cranes as the #1 seed in this region. And the best odds to advance out of this quarter of the bracket. De La Salle provides a pretty big roadblock, but the Cranes won a previous matchup this season 3-0. That's the only loss, though, that the Pilots have suffered in the past month. In a rematch with high stakes could net different results, right? Especially considering De La Salle has had 10 different goal scorers in the last 7 games. A lot of guys starting to get involved in the offense now for the Pilots. That rematch could potentially be a little bit different. On the other side here, RGR is a pretty sizable favorite in Region 24. They are 42 spots ahead of the next highest ranked team, according to my hockey rankings. I know Gross Eel is feeling good, right? They've got 19 wins on the season. Country Day played RGR tough last month in defeat, 3-1. El Carlson here could show some resistance in a potential semifinal matchup as well. So I don't think they're going to cruise. I just see them as a pretty sizable favorite to win. But as we look at the Vegas odds, I'm giving RGR a 56% chance of winning regionals. They're a tad behind Liggett here at plus 1100 to advance past the quarterfinal rounds. Liggett beat RGR just a few weeks ago in convincing fashion, 6-3 at the MIHL Showcase. So I got to give them a little bit of a leg up here when we're looking at odds. Cranbrook with the best odds to make it to Plymouth, plus 190. Where am I at here? Plus 200. Okay. I do think as we're looking at this, your winner of Region 23 is likely going to be your representative from this quarter of the bracket as well. Cranbrook, De La Salle, and Liggett all with better odds of advancing than anybody in Region 24 there. So, all right, let's see. We'll take a quick snapshot here. I got ahead of myself. So to recap a little bit, here are some of the biggest favorites across all divisions. You got Trenton, Stevenson, Powers among heavy favorites in Division 2. You got Clarkston and Howell in Division 1. And then you got Alpena with a sizable chance to win a regional in Division 3. Past that, we look at the odds of reaching the Frozen Four in their respective divisions. Stevenson with the best odds at minus 490. Then Alpena at minus 150. You got Brother Rice, Howell, Clarkston, Flint Powers. I'll also throw in East Grand Rapids here. They're at plus 150 as well, but the graphic here wouldn't have been as balanced, wouldn't have been as visually appealing. So I didn't have EGR on the graphic, but nonetheless in that kind of 3-way tie for 5th place here. Okay, let's see. Can I do this? There we go. Good. All right, that was fun. If you enjoyed my Vegas odds for the MHSAA state playoffs, be sure to leave a comment below and let me know. Or if you hated it, you can hate it too. That's fine. Connect with me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and we can talk about this and anything we discuss on the podcast as well. Much more playoff talk to come. New blogs coming to the website on Monday. I'll also do a full bracketology, and we'll fill out some of these brackets with picks on next week's pod as well. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of it coming up. So till next time, Skate hard, have fun, see ya.